Alright, here we are with some earth-shattering footage of incredible paperwork, which we'll be getting to imminently. However, this brief pass through recent theatrical mathematical developments is going to focus on the completion, let's say, of our picture regarding the big planetary brain, the billions, the millions, etc., etc. And the key trigger to this whole completion of the picture was the final missing element being brought to the table, let's say. And this resulted from encounters I had a month ago with the ghost of Richard M. Nixon in the Ghost Capital, wherein I had the shocking encounter where he was very concerned, Nixon, about Satan. And he was concerned about how the fear and paranoia in the collective consciousness is being stirred up by that wonderful Illuminati Velociraptor master who was 70 million years ago the Lord of the Earth. Satan, as we know him now, is the Velociraptor master from long ago. And I had, of course, the whole plot involving the Illuminati reptilian connection, but had never really focused on Satan as a character or the real connection to the dinosaur civilization before. But this encounter with Nixon clarified the issue for me, and I brought it to the attention of Mike Silva. And now here we are, this mad mass of paperwork going on here. But what it really came down to is we finally had a completion, let's say, of the picture regarding the planetary brain in terms of its various civilizations, okay? So we can see just quickly here with this part of the paperwork, this idea here of the mound of the billions, on top of which are three separate pyramids. Each of these pyramids represents the unfinished pyramid with the all-seeing eye, i.e., million control mechanism for the billions of the planetary brain, right? And now, Mike Silva, can you please give me a brief illumination on what went on in your mind when I brought to the table this idea of the Velociraptor and the dinosaur civilization, how that completed the trinity of previous civilizations?
Well, the quatrain?
Yeah, the whole civilization brain quatrain.
Right.
So,
that's exactly what it was. The first piece or last piece that was presented was the Velociraptor Satan/dinosaur civilization, which then allowed for the theatrical mathematical equation to be applied to an understanding of how there are four civilizations, not three trying to make one planetary civilization, but four separate civilizations that make up.
And the three previous ones with dinosaurs 70 million years ago, the elves 1 million years ago, and the Atlanteans 15 to 13,000 years ago, right? And they have a red, blue, green affiliation. Why?
Why?
Because
they, if put in the theatrical mathematical equations, they specifically line up with their order. Because we are using theatrical mathematics quickly. It is the living timeline of a particular reality. So using this Earth timeline and this particular reality in this now of this time and space, the application of theatrical mathematics would dictate that we go back to the beginning or birth of the timeline for this particular dimensional reality, knowing full well it will have a end line, which is not our concern at the moment, but accurate information traced back to the origins of this particular timeline with these civilizations was pertinent, and the Velociraptor input began the timeline for us for intelligent living organisms who therefore must be here for purpose being defined as awareness of a planetary consciousness, termed for now in our reality timeline as humans as Columbia. Well, that being said, if there were three previous civilizations and we are the fourth, the other three must have failed in some manner in their attempt. Otherwise, we would not be where we are in this time-space now.
Correct. Now, quickly then, what is going on here with this page we're looking at? We have the equations. We're not going to go into the whole big deal about all the equations, but just generally, we have this, which is evolving as the summation, let's say, the formula summation of all of our paperwork going back, which I'll go into in lovely detail, all this stuff, etc., etc. But this particular, here's the grids and etc., and how they create the pyramid. This is all well known and not exactly the point now. But this equation here, where you began, now this box here, the Illuminati reptilian box, was somehow involved in the triggering mechanism.
Yes, because I was discussing you with you specifically, and it was amongst the triad of members of a grid awareness of the 144,000. With that all being said, your specific communication was the whole experience you had with Richard Nixon and its communication and how it related to the Illuminati reptilian box itself. This particular equation, which is now being public, is you and how you work in the universe and proves that you exist in the universe mathematically.
Can you just make a pass through that equation with your wonderful Mike Silva way as far as what's going on with the colors, Atlanteans, L's, etc.?
Well, that is what gave me the clue in on the civilizations, which then led to more stuff. The fact that you were bringing it up here while I was trying to explain you to you is what allowed me to have the ability to continue on to fill in the rest of the pyramid. This particular equation had nothing to do what was to follow. This was specific to you, and you only were trying to say.
So now specifically then, the content we're seeing in this equation here, like this, Faust, Book of Mormon, Skull and Bones, that's just derived specifically from the filled-in presidential grid, plot level grid, and woman grid, all these different things that are coming in, and plus the 28-box version of the chart, which had the historical figures, was also used in some formulamatic way to derive different formulas, because we see this is reflected now quickly.
Just why that is important to this is because we need frames of reference for parameters of reality. So we have agreed upon 4 separate grids, each consistent with each other, for the parameters that they work with, and that's what these terminologies are referring to, because we have previous knowledge of what they mean to us specifically.
But when you filled in those variables, it's not just the grids you also use one 28-box version of the chart as well in filling in some of these variables.
Yes, the top variable, because it takes 2 charts, and that's what we're trying to get to.
Okay, go ahead,
because of the Velociraptor was important to come up with the actual walking of the grid, which is necessary over the next 4 years to have a pattern to be recognized in the galaxy by the universe.
So now that gets us to here.
That gets us to here.
Okay, sorry.
So the Velociraptor itself and the fact that we have these grids and charts brings us to you need to be an individual of wholeness, which means you have been able to put 2 charts together and have your own grid. Once you are able to do that, and this is the pathway for that here.
So what's going on here? We have 6,012, 144,000, million, and billions in these numbers. And what's happening to the right of that on this page here?
This is how in the mundane universal grid level, how you would approach the different numbers of importance in the reality of the now of this time and space. Because we're dealing with billions, millions, 144,000, and 6,012. The different levels of progress for the inner self, then the outer self, then the planetary self, as well as the cosmic self, all have to be able to mirror each other in levels of importance and consistency with numbers and time frames specific to this time and now.
Okay, and now...
So this particular progression is about the individual self because there are charts involved.
Now, quickly, U, G, and E, what's happening there, and how does that relate to this big picture we're going into next?
We then had to calculate... It wasn't understood how to align the Earth for communication with the universe as a transcendental being, whatever, as an actual self.
Right.
Where we all are just in the brain cell mentality. But there is a way for us not only to recognize what the universe, the direction the universe is looking in, but also ways the Earth would like us to progress in that direction for the betterment of all, because we have to unfortunately include humankind.
It says
But
we need to
basically
achieve a balance between the Earth and the universe here.
Yes.
That's your basic bottom line.
Well, that's what was finally figured out. That was the equation we're trying to solve based on all the information we have now. Because now we can trace civilization all the way back to its origin. The question we're trying to solve is the harmonic balance of the Earth with the universe. So the universe recognizes the Earth as an entity.
Oh, I see. So we couldn't approach the harmonic balance of the universe until we had all the civilizations that had existed
until we had
on
the
Earth.
real timeline up till now.
Right, the real timeline, 72 million years, perhaps, to now.
How can you walk the history of...
72.
How can you bring... All right, picture yourself externally. If you're trying to solicit... If you want to know somebody better than anybody else can know them, you need to trace back their history of themselves as far back as they can remember, as well as find external portions to add to their remembrances, triggers, etc., etc. Why would not the same thing apply with the Earth? Why? Of course, we'd have to go all the way back to the origins of consciousness on the Earth if we're going to try to walk the Earth consciousness all the way back to itself so it can come back to being current.
Okay.
It's like we're firing all cells at once all the way back to the start.
All right.
How do we do that?
U is the universal variable. G
The universal
is the...
variable this is what we consider to be the greater good. Because...
That's what we're aligning with in 2012.
Yes.
The galactic center.
Yes. So how do we represent what that U, that galactic center, is looking for and maintain our individuality?
Because ultimately we're just part of that organism, and we'll be bitch slapped quickly if we're not in alignment with what it wants.
So that means that's where the G comes in.
Which is what happened to the dinosaurs, etc. Perhaps.
So there has to be a way for us to represent our and thermum through that or whatever for ourselves, to basically be the face of our belief as we interact with the billions.
So the G then?
The G is the summation of two charts, a cosmic and mundane chart going all the way back to our earlier days, which makes you a grid. And once you are a grid, then you are a G.
G is for grid, as well as other things.
Yes.
Nice. Very nice. And then the E.
The E is the Earth, and this is what we are trying to discover.
So the G is balancing U and E.
The G is the only way that you can represent either or both. Either nor or both.
Okay.
Unless you are a G, you don't stand a chance to align up with the Earth or with the universe.
Now this here, the E.
So now this is how these previous civilizations have tried to force us to align up with their version.
The dinosaurs with their chaos plan, the elves with their be the light plan, and the Atlanteans with their failed attempt to balance both.
But because we have the presidential grid...
Now here, this is the big deal here. Now what's going on in great detail? GE and GU, not big detail, but
we're trying to solve how to achieve a harmonic balance between the Earth and the universe, taking the variables that we're going to have static from the dinosaur civilization, the elven civilization, and the Atlantean civilization, trying to do right by themselves, re-succeed themselves, whatever. So to solve that equation, this is the only way I could solve the equation to stay true with how we are individuals still. We are still part of the billions, part of the millions, part of the 144,000, part of the 6,012, but not in any of them. And it comes down to being in and of the three.
And I just have to point out, before you get quickly in there, that the shocking synchronicities inside, in terms of which boxes you ended up picking from both that 28-box chart and from the grids, the shocking synchronicities that are in play, I just want to quickly make a pass through here. And highlight a couple things myself before you give me the final wrap-up that will lead us to the big picture, okay? Brother Smith's apotheosis is one variable that connects also, you see, Joseph Smith is chosen from the other chart for totally different reasons. He happens to be above his wife, Emma Smith, who's from the women chart for another entire different reason. Then for still another reason, you have the Book of Mormon appearing here. And then, like, for another example, King Arthur and the Knights find the Grail in Petra, etc. And so there's like a whole weird synchronicity to this equation, Mike, that marks it on the level that we haven't even begun to grasp yet. But getting back to your version of what was going on, please, as to what that equation was.
You're bringing me to where you want me to be.
So then
we were answering a question.
So now what this is again, the familiar R plus B minus G equals P. And so the R, B, and G are the previous civilization levels equaling the P, which is us.
Yes.
And now what about the specific variables that are in the above E? So the G
we're trying to
has
solve. This is what we're trying to solve for. So
has R plus B
how do you
minus
represent
G
the face of
equals
God
B over 4 plus 1 minus 2 equals 3. Okay.
how do you represent the face of the G and align the Earth and be in alignment with the Earth? And that gave us the whole Chi understanding of the self. How do you align your G with the universe? And that gave us the whole soul level of progress through the pyramid.
With 4 presidents, curiously, and
this is the creation of your own personal
old cosmic
G.
characters, medium, politician, student, mother. Okay, so this is a very complex theatrical mathematical quiff, which I wouldn't dare to pop at the moment.
Can you correct my wording?
Urum Thummum.
This is for...
Which is right here, by the way. Just to make a quick comment on this. The Urum Thummum. All important insight. Again, the Joseph Smith material is what led me to this, but the Urum is the real, the Thummum is the fake, and neither are true. Truth is above both, and false is the pit below, and choice is in the center. Any comment quickly on that, and how it relates to everything going on?
We are going under the guise of a mistress plan through the Masonic way for the greater good. As this makes up how a person makes up their selves. They start with yourself, your mind, your soul, and you try to get the balance of chi. Once
That's
you get the
hot.
balance of chi, then you can then combine your self.
And this has to be the greatest picture ever right here, the yin-yang head, which connects to the Merry Apocalypse Child for other reasons.
Right.
Which also relates to Petra.
And this gives you the choice that is here from the truth, because this brings you to the truth. But you can't stay in the truth and still interact with society to achieve the mistress plan for the greater good using the Masonic way for no other...
Right.
This is for no other. This is the best Hoover plot there is.
Right.
The situation. So, having to spin out of truth, we're maintaining a balance and choice, which is over here between fate and evil.
Can you comment on the fate-evil dynamic with as a yin-yang there?
It is absolutely necessary as a planetary being, which you become once you become a whole self, to use your brain to decipher the necessary right and duty, which is fate and evil, which is that yin-yang, orange, yellow, is you have your rights, but you have to apply the same duty to the right in order to create an awareness on a cosmic level. You're not going to exist on a universal level. You're already existing on a planetary level, but on a universal level, you have to understand that you can't exploit one side or the other. You have to have a harmonic balance between exercising certain rights with certain duties. And if you know the truth about yourself, it's only natural to be involved.
Presidential grid box creates awareness.
Right, because this opens up one box in the presidential grid. Even though you are a grid because you've combined 2 charts together, this makes you a grid, but only gives you one box in the presidential grid. But it makes you a person to be able to get to this resurrection point.
This is our original starting point of
Right.
the 2 pillars, the green passageway and then the purple building or temple.
Because it's how you go from it's aligning your planetary human self with the planetary consciousness and what it needs to be aligned with the universe. That's why it combines all together.
Oh, I see.
If you stay consistent,
The P is related to the earth somehow.
If you're working because we're trying to shroud the earth in a purple veil.
Oh, right, I see. Now what's happening here with the spinning off pit?
Because this is the holding pattern of the presidential grid that we are in, so no energies get used before, even if people are popping, we are still saving that energy and not allowing it to go off into anywhere else. So it spins off the grid because it's no longer contained because somebody's decided to pop it. So if it spins off instead of it, because it's all false now, we are containing it as you and I being the blue and the red pillar.
Nice.
So we're trying to fulfill, the whole point is we're trying to fulfill this plan that you have dictated from the very beginning, which saves all the humans instead of just aligns the planet with the universe.
Now getting back to
this is how we save the humans, align the planet with the universe, represent what the universe wants of all humans in our daily lives so that they see a representation of that and know how to motivate them to do it for themselves.
All right, and then that leads us to
walking the grid.
Now, why do we have the two pyramids, the inverted, the billions here, right? But it's almost like we have the big pyramid on top, and then the inversion is reflected within the billions.
Yes.
Okay, like the dog and the bone.
Over here, we've decided that there's the chi that makes up the human self, and then when you're trying to become a planetary citizen in a universal
So this chi
level,
here is this chi?
Yes.
I see.
You are all in this chi.
And then it's the same as this chi.
But what? Right.
So this.
But that chi
this,
puts you on.
And this, I
right.
see.
And you must if you get to here to this presidential grid box awareness, that puts you in this billions, the soul level, not the chi level.
I see. Okay, so
and that puts you here at this point where you're going through the true path of the grid of the universe and deciding what your choice is going to be for what your role is in the universe.
Okay, getting back then to this.
So
now.
this has been made by us specifically to control how the dinosaur civilization, Elven civilization, or Atlantean civilization. This is a bad thing.
Oh,
bad
I see.
things point down.
Oh, I
they're
see.
Protected by good.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That how they used to manipulate humans is by making this top pyramid point that would be the climax for us as humans, but for them is the contact point to humans.
Oh, I see.
They would turn this blue if the elves wanted to interact with a human. Or
Oh,
they would turn
yes,
this red.
because they see themselves as superior to us.
So
And
they're
so they're
in the
using
on
us
the
in
chi
the-
level.
Yes.
I am whoever.
Right, and you are a little far below me.
So what we have done, because we know we had to become grids ourselves by putting two charts together and becoming this chi, a one of the 6,012 out of the billions, but on a chi level, we know we're individuals in the universe and our souls matter. Because we're already connected to the earth and we know so by understanding this presidential grid, we have forced the fact that they can no longer communicate with us unless it's with a purple hue. So if they're going to try to represent the face of God to a human, I've contacted you, it has to be for at least that one human's want.
Okay, now something else I want to highlight here, because this seems to be where it's appropriate, is this page we have above, which resulted
Is the different ways that they manipulate the humans on a chi level.
I want to record something here for the record too. This happened Saturday night at Sunday morning rather at like 2 a.m. at work in the middle of the mundane pit, watching the imps whip my coworkers. I kind of saw the imp level almost like the metaphysical monkeys on their back, but then I saw past it by resonating with it, not through an imp that was attacking me. I let it kind of pass through me in the Muad'Dib fashion. And I got a frequency of its string that was kind of like, almost like it's a puppet on this string, and I followed the string back, and that led me to the Velociraptor satanic intelligence. And I had a strange observation of its intelligence. And I realized that there are these strings, and here's the example, because this is the one that applies to the red, okay? These strings, which, looking at it this way now, they are how you go wrong. Let's say in my position there, you enter the cave of the Velociraptor's intelligence, and as I didn't make a move, I made no intelligent move, no thought at all. That's how I was undetected. I was eavesdropping on Satan. And other people don't do that. They immediately make one of these three bad choices, which we could easily sum up as fear, which makes Satan manifest as your greatest fear, which is the red option, or the blue, which is, he's tempting you, what kingdom do you want? You can be the man, Anton LaVey, tangible rewards, the money, the sex, whatever. And then the Larry, the green option, is just your mind's blown and you're eaten, okay? Right, so those are the three results you get from contacting the red dinos, okay? And then, of course, this led us to then extrapolate yesterday. And if you want to make a quick comment on what's going on.
Ahead,
all right. Okay, so now here's the key. It's obviously bad if this happens with the red, and you obviously don't want it to happen. But some people then assume that it's good for this to happen with the blue, the elves. But as we know, that's not necessarily the case, and you're just sucking the cock of the light instead of the dark. Instead of getting raped by the darkness, you're sucking the cock of the light. Okay, and so the three ways that occurs is, the red level is the light immersion, which is you become one with the universe, but physically you are irrelevant. You're not doing anything except being in the light. The blue version of this is what we could call a Messiah complex, which is you feel, because of your special contact to the light, that you have some kind of empowered illumination that sets you apart above the herd, etc., and it's self-righteous gratification. And then, of course, the green Larry version of that is being in the herd, right, just subservient to the light. Okay, so these are the three ways you go wrong with the blue. And most people now don't even think of that as necessarily going wrong. Like, everybody who's a, following the light religious person is just in one of those three boxes. You're either, if you're in the Buddhist Zen type attitude, perhaps you're in the immersion in the nirvana, right, which is the light immersion, or transcendentalism, etc. But that's equally irrelevant to the being part of the hierarchy of the light or being the follower. So then, getting on to the Atlanteans, contact with them and their ways of manipulating is even more insidious because it's closer to us and it has more of a relevance in terms of pulling a trigger on us today, okay? Because the elves are, behind the curtain, the dinos are gone, only the velociraptor remains, but the Atlanteans are hanging around. Luckily, we have the dwarves as a buffer. But the point is, the three ways you go wrong here, the red version of it, okay, is getting the contact call where you're trying to changing all of reality by getting the big payoff, rewriting history, and you have, let's say you're under a plot level control without even having a good result. Then
the aliens working with
right. I'm getting the contact, and this is the big thing. So then the other version of this, the blue, is you become the expert. I've got the answer, etc., relating to the Atlanteans and or the UFO, and you're being quoted, and you can prove it through your physical examples of such and such, and, again, irrelevant, all right, leading people down the wrong path. And the green version of this is you may have the answer or contact, but you're antisocial, you have no connection to the common man, and you're just irrelevant again for no reason. And so these are... Again, now the green, it's free will. You're choosing how you're going to interact more than you're obviously under a patriarchal model with the fathers of the light, and you're in a terror situation of natural chaos with the dinos. But with the green, you're more susceptible, and they're more of like offering you a contract that you're going to be falling victim to. Okay, rather than just obedience or immersion or terror or temptation. So your quick comment on that, if you think I missed anything.
No, you didn't miss anything. The importance to me of the breakdown of these inconsistent but consistent ways of manipulation are we had to define, we want to give the rights and the ability to fulfill the duties to the humans, and this is the way that these three previous civilizations are trying to get the humans to give up their rights to these other civilizations' representatives, right, to fulfill the duties for them. And we don't feel that the humans should have to give up the ability to have their rights and their duties if they want them. But they need to know they have that choice. So in order for us to even consider that there were choices to be made, we had to figure out these pitfalls, because these pitfalls are the ways that these previous civilizations' representatives are manipulating the person before the person has a chance to have their own awareness. Okay. If you decide to align with the elven civilization, once you know that one actually exists, and it's not just, oh my God, I think I'm talking to God or something stupid like that, that's different. That's free will. That's a choice, not on the Atlantean way, but on the human way, so we were encompassing all of their civilizations, and they all have previous contracts with pre-existing humans that we have to be responsible for to the now. So we had to figure out a way to honor all of their contracts with the previous humans that have come before us, control the way they try to manipulate the humans that still haven't become awareness themselves, and also have our own free will by maintaining our own individuality, by not getting sucked up in trying to be a shepherd or a fearmonger or
Okay, quickly now, the gnomes and fairies are in the orange and the imps are in the yellow.
Yes.
Can you comment on that in this whole picture?
Absolutely.
Here?
This is actually walking a full year that starts on January 20th, 2007, or 8, excuse me, and ends the same day of the following date of 2009.
Bush's last day in the end of the president grid.
Going back to, we are trying to, in smaller time frame, repeat the timeline up to the now, make it consistent with the truth of all previous existence, and still be able to live in the now. So there are factors. We know there are these 3 civilizations, and they employ the services and or deprecation of these different imaginings. And as you go through the path, whatever
right, because we've inherited the gnomes from the Atlanteans and the fairies from the elves and the imps from the dinosaur.
So the application of this particular order is because it is a transcendental thing through the grid. So it's a projection of your soul self by walking it on a chi level. So you don't want to put names to faces of dinosaurs, elves, or Atlanteans in your daily life, but you can name their gnomes and fairies
and imps.
Right. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
I do.
I wouldn't want to put a major name on the character at work that's pissing me off, so he must be an imp.
Right.
But they specifically are affecting my walk, and generally you're going to think that, oh, well, getting through this wasn't so bad, only to have fated yourself to be, it's going to come back to get you. But you get a clean slate if you make it through the whipping of the imps. Because they should have been here. How could I must have done the right thing because they weren't here whipping me. I was being propelled in the good and the light here.
Okay, now
because
quickly.
You're being sucked in here.
Right.
And
now, okay, sorry. My camera time is cutting short. So this isn't just, but this is a formula expressing.
That's a walkthrough.
It's a walkthrough of what you just mentioned this year. I'm just going to quickly.
It's a walkthrough of going through these pitfalls in a glorious way instead of.
And now you explain institutional, transcendental, and social here as I scan
through. The first trimester, the first 4 months, you'll be looking at in the mind frame of your interactions on a
Hoover level.
Right, on a building level. That if it's the building of work, and then the work is not broken up by the people I work with. It's broken up by the departments that make up my job.
Right.
So then, all your interactions of defining your fears and desires have to be on a Hoover level, on a interaction with institutions that already exist. So then the second trimester
is blue, the elves.
Where you get to define your beliefs in a consistent manner with the institutional level you just previously set up.
Right.
You set up the parameters of the Masonic way in the first 4 months so that you can apply the mistress plan in the next 4 months.
And then the 9 through 12 is then the green, which is the greater good.
The actual putting your intent in your action into motion,
right.
Which is serving the greater good.
Okay,
so
then
making a choice to get involved in whatever social conflict.
Now, as we have minutes only here,
so that was walking through
all that. Now, getting here to the millions. This is the big pyramid. Now, the human pyramid, which is purple,
the right way.
It encompasses because we've done this in the bottom.
Right.
Okay, now we have control of it.
Come close to
no, of course not. Now here's the 3, but under our umbrella and
under the truth.
Yeah, under the truth that we have, which is again truth, which going back to the Urim and Thummim thing, which has balanced the equation of the 3 previous civilizations through our interaction with the imps and the fairies and gnomes.
Yes.
And then we have the purple level as a result, which defines our million is defined by all of this, including this. So in the million is and you have actually a lovely breakdown of exact numbers.
Right.
Of course.
Everybody's treaty gets honored, everybody's contracts get
paid. And this again goes back to the formula with the Joseph Smith and the
we can
King
write
Arthur,
the checks, and these people can cash them.
Right.
In this pyramid. And this takes into consideration every plot level ever existed to the start of time.
Yes. And the particular configuration of the formula which we saw, which involved like Faust, Book of Mormon, etc., all these different variables, is the containment solution that you just have articulated, the pattern that solves,
it's both. The pitfalls of the allure.
That's so sophisticated because we're using pieces of many different things which in and of themselves would otherwise be perceived as the master plan.
Yes.
Right. So now just quickly, the top pyramid here, as we are just seconds away, the top pyramid of the 6012 on top of the solved presidential grid of the 144,000, cosmic universal grid.
Right.
Meaning that's a cosmic contacting the universal level as the 6012 are destined to do
Yes.
in the 2012 event,
Yes.
which is alignment to galactic.
This top of the pyramid is already aligned with the universe, and this is
the Omega
motion,
moment here.
This grid, but this
Right.
this is a cosmic universal grid, which is a mirror reflection of the presidential grid running the truth program, which we restart at the end of the presidential term of Bush. But this is all spinning. This
Shocking.
But this is aligned already, so we're trying to just we have a way to make this stop line up, and actually it's already connected to the universe. That's why this has already been done.
Right.
We've done it.
We have.
And
The fact that we can even see it proves that we've already done it.
well,
Now
that's
we have to just
why.
follow
But
the
this is the
pattern.
importance right here: is that this grid needs to stop and just connect. These people need to shut the fuck up and pay. I mean, go cash the check.
I see. Okay,
You know,
so
they were
final.
supposed to pay here. People are expecting them to pay here. There's nothing here, but we've canceled them out by making it positive and negative. And this is all another equation that runs from 9 to 10.
Final word then.
11 and 12.
11 and so yeah, 9, 10, 11. So then final word on the totality that we're looking at right here in terms of patting ourselves on the back in a moment of yes, we have accomplished something. Final word is from Mike Silva.
We can't dumb it down any more than this.
It is the most contained and simple yet complex baseline we could come up with currently. Currently, in terms of the current now, the current of history or herstory, the current of electricity, and the current of chi. So, that really does sum it up, and that covers much more than I ever hoped for. So it's all good, and I'm going to end on this lovely yin-yang head and the merry way that is the way for today.